Hiya, Soundies. Welcome to our Sound for Video session. Today is the 8th of September, 2024. It's great to have you here. Let's go to our agenda and jump right in today. First off, this is a workshop which goes along with our courses over at school.learnlightandsound.com. And anybody is welcome, of course, to join the session here on YouTube. So it's great to have you all here with us. If you're ever interested in some of our more in-depth courses, you'll find those over at that address there. All right, last week we talked about hiding lavalier microphones, and one of the tricks with hiding lavalier microphones is that when you do that, the sound of the microphone changes because the sound from the voice has to go through a layer of at least one layer of cloth, usually, to get to the microphone, and that fabric will usually reduce some of the higher frequencies in particular. Also, where you place the microphone drastically changes the overall sound, as we demonstrated last week. So to go along with last week's session, what we're going to do is look at EQ matching using an equalizer to try and make a lavalier microphone sound more like a boom microphone. And we'll use a couple of different tools to do that. One in iZotope RX and another one, which is a standalone plugin from a company called Fab Filters. And then we did have a question that came up, and we'll jump to that a little bit later on. Okay. So to start, what I did is I made a recording with a Sennheiser MKH50 and then also with a Sanken COS 11D lavalier microphone. And the Sanken, the 50 was recorded into a Sound Devices Mix Pre. The Sanken was recorded into a Deity PR2 pocket recorder. So that's what we're starting with. And why don't we go take a look here at our Mac, and we'll kind of show you where we're starting here. So I have 4 different recordings here, and the first one is the MKH50, the boom microphone. We then have the Sanken COS 11D, the exact same take there with the lavalier that was pinned to my shirt. This was on the outside of my shirt, incidentally. Another recording, a separate recording, that was the Sanken COS 11D with it hidden underneath my t-shirt. And then we also had a request for matching the, this is one of the question that was submitted ahead of time, in fact, was matching the Rode Wireless Pro with a boom microphone. So we'll do that here as well. Okay, so this is iZotope RX. We're in RX11 in the audio editor app, and this is what the original recording sounds like. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make the EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so that was the boom microphone. So throughout this entire session, whenever I'm on the first tab here, whenever this is blue, we're listening to the boom microphone. And then when I come over to these other tabs, we're listening to a lavalier microphone, just for reference, so that when I switch back and forth, it's clear to you which one you're listening to at that moment. All right, here is the Sanken that was actually pinned to the outside of my shirt using just the included alligator clip. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. I'm going to switch back and forth. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make the EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make the EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, that's where we're starting. So I wanted to run those by you just so you can get your bearings here and understand what each of them sounds like. Again, this first tab is the boom microphone, the MKH50. Second tab here is the Sanken with the alligator clip pinned to the outside of my t-shirt. Let's start there. Those, I guess first, let's check in the chat. Are you hearing the difference? Danny, are you hearing the difference? Danny can hear the difference. Okay. If you can't hear the difference, then you might need to try a different set of headphones. It's going to be really hard to hear the difference, possibly on like phone speakers. So I might recommend a good set of headphones if you've got them available to you. Or if not, you can always come back. After the session here, these always stay on YouTube after the fact. I think there was some confusion about that too, by the way. These don't go away. Then they're not just live sessions. We do it live, but then it's also there for anyone to watch after the fact. So, okay, so Daniel says, I'm listening on computer speakers and hear the difference, i.e. plenty of difference, obviously. Okay, cool. Big difference, Udo says. Okay, good. Folks are hearing it. Yes, I hear the difference from Rag and Bone Puppet Theater. Okay, good. All right, so the first tool we're going to try here is right in iZotope RX. This is in the advanced version. There is this module here called EQ Match. And the way that EQ Match works is that you first go to your boom microphone and you tell it to learn the frequency profile of this microphone based on an audio sample. So all we need to do is click, we're here on our boom microphone. I'm going to go ahead and select it all. And we're going to click Learn. And this is what it's showing here as our overall frequency profile. Now we have basically one control. We have amount, and just to be clear about this, here's what the documentation says about this from iZotope. First, starting off here, the EQ Match module lets you match the EQ profile of a selection with the profile of a different selection. This is useful if you're ever tasked with matching a lav mic with a boom mic, matching location dialog to ADR, or vice versa. Or perhaps you have multiple mics on an audio source that you'd like more closely aligned in terms of frequency response. So what the amount does is it sets how closely the frequency spectrum you're processing will be matched to the learned spectrum. And many times using a 100% match could sound unnatural, and lower values between 10 and 40% do enough to make two audio signals more closely aligned. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's go to 40%. And let's come over here to our Sanken COS 11D. And what I can do is I can do the compare here. So when I listen to the original audio, I'll be listening to the original Sanken before it was EQ'd. And then when I go to the second one here, the EQ Match Settings 1, that'll be the Sanken that has been processed with the same profile as the MKH50. So let's hear how these sound now, starting with the original. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, I don't know what you heard, but to my ears, that's a fairly subtle difference. It made a difference, but very subtle. So I'm going to go ahead and render that. You can always undo it. And then let's go ahead and A/B. Let's listen to the original boom mic. Go away. There we go. Okay, the original boom mic and then the processed Sanken. Let's see how they sound relative to each other. So again, first tab, when I click on that and play, that is going to be the boom mic, the Sennheiser MKH50. Second tab is the Sanken COS 11D. So we'll play them back to back. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make or EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make or EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay. Perfect match? No, definitely not, but closer than it was. It did, I think, a decent job of getting it a little bit closer. So that cutting back and forth between them, I think I would still probably notice it. In fact, I have noticed when I watch shows, streaming shows, I have noticed recently that I can almost always tell when they're using a lav mic versus a boom mic, and or when they cut between them, I can often hear the difference. A lot of exterior scenes, for example, it seems like they will often, not always, but especially if it's a wider shot, they will cut to a lav mic instead of a boom mic. And I can often tell, A, either whether they've switched microphones, or if B, they've done a lot of processing to make that microphone sound about how they wanted it to sound, that dialogue at that point to sound how they wanted it to sound. So not bad, but let's keep in mind that Isotope RX is not an inexpensive application, and that was not a perfect match. So there is still something to working with microphones that hopefully make it easier, that they're closer from when they actually capture the sound, and you don't have to manipulate them a whole lot. But let's go ahead and undo that. And what I want to try instead, let's try, despite the advice of the documentation, let's go ahead again. We'll learn the MKH50 profile. There it is. And let's go ahead and just really crank it up. Let's go to 100% and apply it here. And just out of curiosity, let's hear how that sounds different. So I'll start with the boom mic, and then I'll switch over to the Sanken, processed at 100%. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make or EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like or EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Interesting. I think what it did there is it seemed to add more bass to the Sanken, and it wasn't necessarily a great sound, to be honest, but it did probably more closely match in terms of the overall bass response, but I would probably have opted for the 40% one there myself if I were cutting between the two, and I might actually even EQ the Sennheiser back a little bit to cut a little bit of the bass just so that it sounded a little bit more natural. So that's about how I would approach this here. Okay, so that's one example. Let's go to a more extreme example here. This is, now these are not the same recording. This is the boom mic, the MKH50. And I did a separate recording altogether with a Sanken underneath my t-shirt. So it's not going to be, we're not going to be able to play them back to back and have me saying the same words. But we should be able to do the same thing here in terms of capturing the EQ profile and applying it to the lavalier microphone. So let's start. Let me just play you a little bit of the boom microphone, and then we'll play the lavalier that was hidden under the shirt. So first, the boom. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. Actually, it is picking up some clothing rustle. In any case, that aside, you can hear a pretty dramatic difference there. So that's a very throaty kind of sound. Not a great sound for my particular voice, especially with that particular microphone. So those are pretty different. Let's see what we can do here. So we're going to come back over to the boom microphone. We're going to pull up our EQ match. We're going to highlight the entire clip and tell it to learn that profile. Then we'll come over to the lavalier here and we'll compare them. So we're going to listen to the lavalier before it's been processed with the EQ profile from the boom mic and the lavalier microphone hidden under the shirt after it was processed. And I'm going to back it off. Let's go back here. Let's go back to 40% as a starting point. Now let's compare. Okay. So again, starting with no processing and then with processing. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. So this is what we're going to use as our sample. And we're going to try to make this sound like a Sennheiser MKH 50. So let's see how we go. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH 50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. Oh, this is a bigger job. That one started so far off from where the boom microphone was that this one will be a lot tougher. But the 40% EQ match, it did add some bass. I could hear more bass in it. So that part of it was matching the other microphone quite a bit better, but there was still very much that throaty sound, which is a little bit harsh and not a great sound altogether. So this one would be a little bit tougher, and this is where I might come in and actually do some manual EQing here as well. And in fact, why don't we take a pass at that and just see what we can achieve here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to go for it. Let's just see what we can do. This, incidentally, is where the ear training that we've done in the past and we're going to do right now is really, really valuable. So good practice for all of us. Here we go. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. So here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. So this is what we're going to use as our sample. And we're going to try to make this sound like a Sennheiser MKH 50. So let's see how we go. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here. Back to the boom. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. Back to the Sanken, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. So this is what we're going to use as our sample. And we're going to try to make this sound like a Sennheiser MKH 50. So let's see how we go. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that. So this is what we're going to use as our sample. And we're going to try to make this sound like a Sennheiser MKH. Back to the boom. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH 50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre. back to the Sanken. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that, so this is what we're going to use as our sample. And we're going to try to make this sound like a... Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that where I need it to be honest. So that's a rough one. That's a really tough one. I wanted to get some extreme examples here. So that's definitely one of them. And for whatever reason, I don't understand. Well, I think I understand, but the Sanken COS 11D and my voice just have never gotten along very well. Just its particular voicing. And again, the position of that microphone makes all the difference in the world. I feel like when I had it out on my, off to the side on my chest, that we could actually make that work. But as soon as I put it right up at the throat, which is a tough position, this is having a tough time doing it. And even my own EQ efforts are not really getting us where we need to be. So that could be that I need more practice, but it also could be this is just a really tough one. Let's go to, let's come back here to the Sanken, the original Sanken that was on the outside of my clothing. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the processing that we did. I want to show you another tool that is another option out there. So coming back to the boom mic, we have a plugin here from another company called FabFilter Pro Q3. And let's go ahead and come back, to the default. We're going to get our FabFilter Pro Q3. Here we go, reset. Okay. So this one works a little bit differently. Same concept, but just the mechanics are a little bit different here. This EQ here is essentially, it's a VST plugin, so it's in most cases people are using it in a digital audio workstation and it's processing in real time. So the way you capture a noise or an EQ profile is a little bit different. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to come down to this analyzer down here and we're going to click EQ match. And then what we're going to do is, it says here, obviously, to start EQ match, first run audio through the plugin to use as the input signal or to save as a future reference spectrum. So I'm on the boom microphone, so I'm going to go ahead and play this and we're going to save this as our reference. So let's go ahead and play it through and capture it. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make our EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay. So let's save this. And we'll actually call it that. We'll replace the existing one. Okay. So we've got our original profile. That's cool. Now what we can do is come over to the Sanken recording here. Again, we backed it up so that it's back to the original. And what I want to do here is let's go ahead and preview it and choose my reference. So we got this CJ MKH50, and we're going to apply this to the input. Here we go. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make our EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so we captured that. Now we can match it. And you can see, wow, it's doing some bizarre stuff there. So let's, you can choose how many EQ points you want to do, and it's nuts. It's got this massive low end boost, which I'm skeptical of. And then way too many. Let's back off. Let's just do something reasonable. Let's do maybe 6, and we'll click finish, and let's preview it and see how it sounds. That sounds very wrong. I am going to reset it. That sounded like it was going to be dangerous on the ears. So let's go ahead and try that again. Looks like something went a little funky there. Let's get our Pro Q3 again. Okay. Back in here, let's EQ match. We're going to go ahead and use the MKH50, and we are going to run through this again. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2, and I have a Senken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make the EQ the Senken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, that's much more reasonable. Let's take a look and see what it did here. So if we give it 24 EQ parameter or EQ points that it can work with, that probably is overkill. It doesn't really seem like it probably needs that. But if we drop it down here to, it was suggesting 8. Let's go ahead and try that. Let's finish. And let's go ahead and preview the audio again and see how it sounds now. Okay, yeah, this is going to work. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2, and I have a Senken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. This is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make the EQ the Senken microphone. All right, that's the Senken. Back to the MKH50. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2, and I have a Senken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. Okay, back to the Senken. So it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. That actually did a better job, I think, than the built-in Isotope RX version. So this got us definitely closer than the EQ match in RX did. That one is actually pretty good. I felt like it's still a little bassy. Both of them I would actually roll off a little bit, but I think this would be a great starting point. So if I was mixing a film and I had to cut between the boom and the lavalier, I'd feel pretty confident doing it with this. So this is a case where, in my mind, RX is not doing the job for me. And I would then go over to the FabFilter Pro Q3 instead. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and we're going to reset that again. Come back in. Let's try it with the other Senken sample that we have here, the one that was hidden underneath my shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and select that Pro Q3 again. Here we go. Okay, we'll bring up our EQ match. We have a reference, which is the CJ MKH50. Now we'll go ahead and play this one through to get it ready for EQ matching. Here's a sample with the Senken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that, so this is what we're going to use as our sample, and we're going to try to make this sound like a Sennheiser MKH50. So let's see how we go. That is so honky sounding. Okay, let's go ahead and do the EQ match here and see what it says. It's recommending 9 points. Let's go ahead and go with that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play the Senken signal first. Again, this is the one that was hidden underneath my shirt, and then I'll bump back over to the original MKH50 so we can compare. Here we go. Here's a sample with the Sanken COS 11D underneath my shirt here, just at below the neckline. And not an ideal location, but it is working in this particular case in terms of clothing rustle. It's not picking up a lot of that, so. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Sanken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 pocket recorder. Okay. I don't know what your assessment is on that. I'd love to hear it in the chat, but my assessment is that's closer than EQ Match was doing in Isotope RX. Still not amazing, still not great, but pretty close and probably usable. It could be something like this is what I was hearing on those TV shows that I was talking about, where I can very clearly hear when we switch from the lav mic to the boom mic or vice versa. So let's go ahead and pause there, come out to the chat here and see what's going on in the chat. Any questions or thoughts or perspectives so far? And I'll get oh, here we go. Udo says, I tried RX EQ Match years ago, but could never reach a pleasing result. Yeah, giving it a new chance now. It's okay if it's pretty close. I'm using Gullfoss on my COS 11Ds, never have a perfect match, but close. Very good. Thanks, Udo. Would be interesting if DX Revive Pro gets better results. Haven't tried that one, so the manual adjustment is sounding a lot better. This was quite a while ago from Ancient Sumerian. Thank you for that. I wish I could see the two live graphs side by side. Yeah, you mean on like two real-time analyzers side by side, that would be interesting. It did kind of overlay them in the Pro Q3, though, Linda, I don't know if you said that before we were starting to use this, but in Pro Q3, you can kind of see the two of them, one superimposed on the other, which is I will say this about the FabFilter. All of the plugins are very good. They're quite expensive, but their visualizations are very, very nice. And functionality-wise, they're very, very good. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead. Could you try a DPA to DPA mic? I could. We don't have time to do that right now, but at some point we could come back and do that as well. The boom mic still has more presence compared to the lav mic adjustments. Completely agree, Daniel. I feel like it definitely sounds more open, and that's actually almost universally true, is that lav mics usually sound a little bit more stuffy to me because they are, attached to the body. So there's always going to be a little bit of that. But the boom mic always has this more open, kind of an open sound that sounds more natural because it's more how we're used to hearing people. When we're talking to somebody in conversation, we're usually within a meter of them, and a boom mic is usually about that same distance, whereas a lav mic is attached to the body, which is not usually how we hear somebody else. Pro Q3 is much better. Completely agree, Udo. I agree the FabFilter did a better job. Completely agree. +1 for FabFilter. FabFilter is better. Still nasal, but closer. That's true. There is definitely still that kind of, it's either you can describe it as nasally, maybe a little bit throaty, but definitely a sound that is not amazing on the second sample where the lav is hidden underneath my shirt in particular. COS 11D under clothing still has an artificial sound processed. Agreed. I think FabFilter is good, but there are better ones. Tell us what you think are better ones than that. Would love to hear about that. Sonoble's EQ4 has a profile match. Anyone tried that? I have not. Good to know about that. How often do you as a recordist have to process the files? It totally depends on where you're working, on the projects you're working on. In my case, we do both the production and the post. So probably 90% of the time, plus I do both. Audio Buff, I'll be a talking head in a video this week. We will be doing this exact technique. Curtis, just in time. Excellent. Hope it helps you and gets you in a good spot. Okay, let's. We had one question come in. Let's go ahead and hop out over to the questions really quickly. We had one request, and I was able to get ready in advance of this. So, the question from Mr. Tyler is: can you please EQ and match a Rode Wireless Pro and a boom mic, as well as a Rode Wireless Pro and a Sennheiser wireless lav mic. I can do one of those, sort of. So we had the Rode Wireless Pro with its built-in microphone. The process is the same no matter which mics you're using. But we did use a Rode Wireless Pro, and we can compare that to the Sennheiser MKH50, or use the MKH50 as a reference mic to EQ the Rode Wireless Pro built-in mic. So let's do that. We'll go ahead and switch on over to the Mac again. And we'll go ahead and, let's see, here is our Rode Wireless Pro, and here is our Sennheiser MKH50. So let me play both of these for you. Again, the first tab, when I move over here, and this is blue, you're listening to the MKH50, the boom mic. When I come over here to the fourth tab, and it's blue, then you're listening to the Rode Wireless Pro's built-in microphone. So we'll start with the boom mic. Okay, we have the Sennheiser MKH50 that is recording into Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2. And I have a Senken COS 11D at the same time that's recording into the Deity PR2 Pocket Recorder. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough time in here, enough material for the algorithm to learn it and know what needs to be changed in terms of EQ. So this is just with the built-in microphone. Same process would apply with the lavalier microphone. So here we go. We'll just go ahead and trim the mess off the end there. Okay, so same process here. So I've already captured the boom microphone's EQ profile. So if we come back into the FabFilter Pro Q3, into the EQ match, we will choose that. So this is the profile here from the MKH50. Let's go ahead and preview and have it compare the two and create an EQ curve for us. Here we go. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough time in here, enough material for the algorithm to learn it and know what needs to be changed in terms of EQ. So this is just with the built-in microphone. Same process would apply with the lavalier microphone. So here we go. Okay, let's see what it says. Let's say match. This over here is really weird. So it's taking and massively boosting the bass. I would not do that. Thank you. But let's go ahead and run it through now and see how it sounds. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough. You know what? Let's go ahead and let it do. Whoops. Let me go back. Okay, I'm second guessing myself now. Let's not pull this bass down. I just want to see what happens there. So let's go back to this. We'll EQ match. Let's go ahead and run through this again. And there's the reference. And here we go. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough time in here, enough material for the algorithm to learn it and know what needs to be changed in terms of EQ. So this is just with the built-in microphone. Same process would apply with the lavalier microphone. So here we go. Okay, I've completely confused it now. I think we need to start over entirely. So we're going to do that one last time. Apologies there. This is a new one for me, and how this works in RX is a little interesting. So we've got our reference. Let's go ahead and do this again. That last time it only recommended 2 EQ points, which was kind of bizarre. So here we go. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough time in here, enough material for the algorithm to learn it and know what needs to be changed in terms of EQ. So this is just with the built-in microphone. Same process would apply with the lavalier microphone. So here we go. Okay, let's do the match. If you do more than 5, it just starts getting a little funky. We'll give it 6. How about that? Okay, let's go ahead and finish and play it now with the EQ. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with the processed Rode Wireless Pro, and then I'm going to switch back to the MKH50. So again, I'm going to start with the 4th tab, Rode Wireless Pro, and then go back to the MKH50 on the 1st tab. Here we go. All right, here's a recording with the Rode Wireless Pro. I'm recording directly to the transmitter, 32-bit float. And let's just going to talk for a couple moments here just so that I get enough time in here, enough material for the algorithm to learn it and know what needs to be changed in terms of EQ. So this is what each of them sounds like, and what I'm trying to do is make our EQ the Sanken microphone so it sounds a lot more like the MKH50 from Sennheiser. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, not bad, not bad. I think that's probably acceptable. And whenever I see the arguments online, especially in YouTube videos where they're like, you can make any mic sound like any other mic, I'm always a little skeptical, and you can get them probably relatively close with a good EQ match, but I'm not sure that you can get them right on, spot on. So that's my experience so far. But that one was not bad. Not bad. I think that's probably acceptable. So, Mr. Tyler, thank you for your question. I appreciate that. Hopefully that gives you some insights on what that looks like. Unfortunately, I don't have a Sennheiser wireless on hand to compare to, but that's at least one example. Okay, let's head on up to the chat and see what's happening in the chat land today. The SSL native XEQ2, in my opinion. Okay, cool. I'm assuming that's a Waves plugin. And then the Rode did a pretty good job. Completely agree. Yeah, Linda, that was pretty good. I use for more easy use the Era bundle with the speakers, Audio Things VST plus ProQ. Okay, cool. I don't remember the Wireless Pro sounding that good. I would say of the consumer wireless microphone systems with built-in mics and when you plug in a lavalier mic, of all of those systems, the Rode Wireless Pro sounds the best to me, on my voice at least. Da Vinci Girl, or from Sennheiser, the drum wickle convolver setup. Wow, I have no idea what that is, but that sounds pretty cool. In general, the way ProQ uses a convolver internally. Okay. So for those that aren't familiar with a convolver, I believe is a specific type of processor. Very good. Udo says Rode Wireless Pro with the Pro Q3 is actually very suitable for your voice. I would agree. Does a pretty nice job. Good job, Rode. You got to be extremely experienced, almost genius to get results in a pair of hours. Normally it could take days. This is not an easy one to do. I'm definitely feeling that for sure. So, do you think the RX Dialogue match would do better than RX EQ match? Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. That's a pretty expensive plugin in and of itself. For those that are not familiar, that's a plugin. I haven't kept up on it, I'll be honest, but when it first came out, I believe it was only something that could be run in Pro Tools. It didn't work in the RX audio editor, so you had to run it in Pro Tools. And it essentially did a few things. It was dialogue isolate, ambiance match, and an EQ match all in one, basically. I would hope it would do better, but I don't. I mean, it's trying to solve multiple problems instead of just one problem. Here, we were working with relatively clean recordings, so we didn't have a lot of ambience that we had to take care of necessarily. But I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. Okay. Sennheiser Drumica is a contact library. Very good. Thank you, DaVinci Girl. I would never expect a Cost 11D sound as good as a professional boom mic. Generative restoration might get a Cost 11D close. DX Revive Pro, Acon Digital, Vitalize, Waves, Vitamin, etc.
Or is it supposed to be resaturation?
Oh, sorry, resaturation. Excuse me. That's probably what it was. Yeah, Cost 11D is an interesting microphone. My experience with it is it's super durable. It's reasonably well RF shielded. It's probably not what there are still lots of people using Sanken Cost 11Ds, but I think a lot of the production sound people have, some of them are probably still using this too, but I think a lot of them have moved to DPA microphones and Shure microphones most recently. So it's a little bit of it's a classic. It's not neutral by any means, as you could tell. I wanted to get one that sounds, frankly, I wanted to choose one that sounds not so great on my voice so that we would have a pretty clear difference to work with to try and achieve something closer to a boom mic. But I think even on most other voices, it's going to be a challenge as well. So if you're trying to get a lavalier, if you're trying to choose a professional level lavalier microphone that you can match to other microphones, I'm not sure that the Cost 11D is probably the best choice in the world. I would, for example, if you're working with DPA boom mics, the DPA lav mics are probably a pretty good choice. I found the Shure lav mics cut pretty nicely with my DPA 4017B, for example. So I've done it. That's worked pretty well for me as well. Don't necessarily love, at least the 66, is it the 6060 or the 4060? I've kind of gotten lost in their model numbers from DPA, but they sounded a little thin to me. But I think that's because they were anticipating that most people would place them over the chest, where you get a lot of chest resonance. So it's trying to kind of voice it so that it doesn't become overwhelmingly bassy when here. All right, Camille, audio, your background is moving again. Did you buy a new hyperdeck? Aren't you afraid that more movement in the image will have a negative effect on the compression on YouTube? It is moving again. So we have the little, I don't know if I can show it here. The cables aren't long enough, but.
Do you want me to put it on this?
There we go. This is what Camille's talking about here. I'm not worried about the YouTube compression. It's going to do what it does. It actually in the past has looked okay, so I'm not too worried about that. But yes, we have the new little HyperDeck shuttle. The price came down on it, so I went ahead and bought one because I'm having all sorts of trouble with the rack mount, the old rack mount one, which is no longer in production. And this one just uses SD cards. It has no fans. Well, it has a fan in it, but the fan never comes on because it never gets hot enough. And it was very simple to get it set up and working, whereas the other one, I don't know what it was doing. Wasn't after several hours of troubleshooting, it still wasn't working. So yes, we have it back. The waveform is back. Does the quality of matching two mics depend on which of the two you choose as the reference? Well, I think that's up to you. It's up to you to choose which one you want the two to sound like. So you choose which of them sounds better, and that becomes your reference, is generally how you would approach it, unless you're just trying to make it sound consistent and you're only using maybe one clip from the boom microphone. Let's say that I'm making an assumption here, and this is not always 100% true, but usually the boom microphone sounds better, fuller, more open. However, in some circumstances, if you're working in a noisy space, the boom microphone can have a lot more noise in it. So if you're working on a piece where you have mostly used the microphone that you would probably say doesn't sound as good, you could use that as your reference to make the other one sound as bad as the one that you're primarily using, just so that they're consistent and they match. Also, keep in mind, our ears accommodate things. So as you listen to something over time, your ears just get used to it, unless it's really, 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 really bad. So if there's an EQ difference between two, and you're choosing the microphone that maybe doesn't sound as open and full, but it maybe is less noisy, And I've found that in a few circumstances that a lav mic will fit that bill. It'll actually not necessarily sound as rich or nice, but it will actually sound quiet. It'll have less noise in it. In those circumstances, you would choose the lav mic as a reference. So those are just my thoughts and my experience. Is that the right way? Nothing that I say is the right way. It's just the way I do it. So, Udo, I have a few Cost 11Ds from years ago. What do you recommend from DPA or Shure without breaking the bank? Well, I don't know if there's anything from DPA or Shure that won't break the bank. I like the TL48 from Shure. TL47s, I believe, are the ones where you can change the caps so you can kind of tune the voicing a little bit depending on how you have to hide it. So that's a pretty nice thing. The DPAs, I only have experience with the 4060, I think it is, which was okay. Again, a little thinner sounding, but it EQs decently. I think it's almost like it's like they intentionally voiced it so that you could place it right on the chest, and that the chest resonance would make up for some of the lack of its sensitivity in the bass region. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that was the sense I got from the DPA mics. So, of the ones that I have, I really like the Shure TL48 and the 47. Acusonus was sold to Facebook for $130 million, and before they did sell, they gave their complete $1,000 bundle for free without a license key. Ooh, that's a pretty sweet deal. Era Bundle is only available if you search at YouTube for Era Bundle free. Good to know. Thank you for that, DaVinci Girl. There's some potential plugins for you. All right. What other questions do folks have? Go ahead and leave it in the chat at Curtis Judd Audio, so that makes it easy for Danny to find it and put it up on the screen. In the meantime, while we're waiting for those to come in, a few weeks ago, we looked at the Rycote pencil condenser microphones, and Rycote was very kind and sent me the supercardioid version of the mic. That was the one that I really, really wanted, and now we have it. So we'll be putting together a video on that one coming up here in the next little bit. So this is much more comparable to, for example, the MKH50 and a lot of the other dialogue pencil condenser mics that we use indoors for video production. So the Sheps CMC 641, I have the MKH 8050, and then I have some, see another one, a more budget-oriented one is the Audio-Technica 4053B. That's more of a hypercardioid, but similar type thing. So we'll be taking a look and a listen at that coming up here in the next little bit. So again, thank you, Rycote. They also answered some of the questions that we had on our live stream a few days ago. I just want to make sure I'm okay to share that information as well. So as soon as I hear back on that, we'll be sharing some of that information as well in terms of where they're manufactured and so on and so forth. Okay. Question, Linda, do you have a recommendation for a headphone amplifier? Oh, I can tell you which ones I have experience with. My primary audio interface is the Universal Audio Apollo X6. Not a cheap one. So it's a headphone amplifier built into an audio interface. That one has been great for me. On the live stream here, we use a very expensive one that was purchased when we had some extra cash to spend. It's called the Little Labs Monitor. It's a very nice one, but it's like a $500 headphone amplifier. This is it right here. It's quite nice. The only thing that I don't love about it is that it doesn't have independent level controls for each of the outputs. It drives Danny a little bit crazy because our headphones are different, so they each need different levels. But it also has some other features. This one is actually made for essentially taking a stereo mix and converting it to mono so you can see how it translates. So it's a kind of a mixing tool as well. So it's not just a straight ahead headphone amplifier. It's also not small. It's not really portable. Has this huge power adapter brick that I can't pull out and show you right now because otherwise Danny won't be able to monitor. But
As big as the device.
It's basically as big as the device, and the device is not small either. So in any case, it has both balanced and unbalanced inputs. So it's a nice headphone amp, but it's made more for mixing and being able to kind of diagnose problems with mixing.
So what about like a normal one?
I think what you're asking is what's a normal one or a reasonably priced one. I don't have any firsthand experience, so unfortunately, I'm not really in a position to make a recommendation there. Apologies for that. And I'm not sure if you're looking for a DAC, like a digital analog converter. There are lots of those out there. It seems like on Amazon there are millions of them from all these companies that you've never heard of, and some of them with ridiculous names too. Yeah, apologies. That's about all I have for you. Actually, I would take, if you need just a really kind of a headphone amp that has multiple outputs, because you need to have several different people monitoring. I think Mackie makes one, and I don't know. I don't think it might be passive. I can't remember if it's passive or not. Anyway, I'll look that up. Any other questions that we have coming in? I can look that up while we're waiting here. Whoops. Go to our friends over at B&H Photo, Mackie headphone amp. This is the one I was thinking, the HM4, which allows you 4 different people to monitor at the same time. They each have their own level controls. So
Here you go.
that looks like it there. Oh, you just really need to split between my external speakers and my headphones. Maybe you need a monitor controller? Sounds like you have a very specific. There's the Mackie Big Knob passive studio monitor controller that I believe. There's another one, like the fancy studio one, but I believe this allows you to select between monitors and sources. And then on the back, I think those are just line level outputs. I don't think they have a headphone out. Yeah, that doesn't look like it'd be the one you need, unfortunately. Perhaps the studio version. Whoops, let's not just search for Mackie. That's going to be a problem. The studio version, whoops, maybe a different thing altogether. So you do have headphones and you have monitor control. So that's one. Again, I don't know if that's really kind of what you're looking to do, but that one could allow you to switch between the two. It's about $250 US.
I don't know which one she meant.
Ah, Mackie would work. There you go. Renee suggests the Rupert Neve. I don't know how you say that. Fidelise line. I don't know how you say it, but Rupert Neve makes some nice equipment. Not cheap though. I would love to hear examples of the Rycote BD10 and OM8, SC8, CA8 in mid-side stereo configuration. So would I.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, Udo. Are you always booming with the bag on? What would you use if you need a wireless headset or in-ear? I'm not always booming with a bag on. So when I have the Orca. I have an Orca bag. I have actually a series of Orca bags. And I'm wearing the Orca harness, the older one without the back brace on it. There's a newer version that also has a back brace on it that kind of is supposed to distribute the weight between your shoulders and waist a little bit more effectively. But that's what I do when I am booming with the bag. And a lot of times when I don't, and I don't need to, and I often don't need to nowadays, I will actually have the bag on a Soundcart Mini, and then I'll be booming separate from that. Just saves on, for all day, it makes a huge difference when you don't have to wear that bag all day. So that's typically what I'm doing.
There's another part.
And there's another part to that question. What would you use if you need a wireless headset or in-ear? What would I use? Well, in-ears, I have some Westone in-ear monitors, which are good. I also have the Mina in-ear monitors, which are custom. Those are actually even better. I like those a lot. Those are the type where you go to the audiologist and they make an impression of your ear canal, and you send it in to Mina. I don't know if they're still making these. I think they are. And then they tune them, and you get to choose whether you want the in-ear monitors voiced like the Sennheiser, or sorry, the Sony MDR7506s, or if you want them voiced like, I think that was one of them, or if you want them voiced like the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. And I got them voiced like the Beyerdynamic because that's one, it's a set of headphones that I'm most familiar with, and I really like those. I don't usually do it wirelessly. I've got my cart near me, so I can usually just stay wired. So I try to avoid any wireless channels that I don't absolutely need. If I had to, I could even just use a Rode Wireless Pro, I suppose. Could I? Yeah, I could. I suppose I could. I've got some Comtex as well. A couple channels of Comtech don't sound very good. I could use a Deity Theos, but again, it's my understanding now that it sprays RF a bit more than other systems, especially other digital systems. So I don't know if I would use that or not, depending on what the frequency looks like at the location I'm at. So there's some thoughts. I'm sure others have some great input for you on that as well. A proper IFB would be the best solution. Okay. Danny says we're at time. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. I hope this was helpful for you. Get out there and make some great sound this week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care, everybody.